that power over us. So they may be triggering something inside of us, which creates that pleasure, that feeling, that thought, but actually that's something we already have inside. So I think we're saying here, Myola, quote me if I'm wrong, but it's really getting into our core essence, what is it about us, and then you know, in the intimate environment, is that person is triggering or, you know, allowing us to feel in that way so we can enjoy that experience. But I love the way you've really honed in on that pleasure, that it is not fixed and it's not just in one spot, you know, it can be anywhere, and let's move around where that pleasure is, because we choose how intense or how not intense we want to feel that.
Yes, and that, you know, brings us back to when you said, you know, often we're thinking about somebody else, and we're wondering if it's okay for them, and we're wondering if we're wondering about if we're in our head at all. It's very, very difficult. I won't say it's impossible, but it's nearly impossible to feel what's going on in your own body and notice what's going on in your own body if you're out with somebody else, which makes sense when it's described to you like that. But because lots of stories I hear is, well, I want them to have it right, and I want them to, if you're over there with them and they're over here with you, then nobody's in their bodies, and that could be why it feels a bit clunky and feels a bit glitchy, because you're both in each other's heads and you're not in your own bodies, because that's where the sensations are, and that's where the connection happens, is when both people are present.
Yeah, because you can actually only feel emotion in the bodies. People think you feel emotion in your head, but actually emotions are only in the bodies, aren't they? So that's really, really something that might, you know, the listeners out there right now, that might have completely changed your thought process and all of that, sort of 180 degrees. That it really is about you focusing on what makes you feel good. Because what is the point in being intimate with someone if you don't feel good? Because energetically they won't feel good, because that energetic exchange, you know, when you come into one, you feel good because, you know, it's sort of, I think it's like a spin on each other. It kind of intertwines into one. Or am I wrong, Lynn? Please quote me.
No, that's it. No, that's exactly what happens. And then and that's the synergy of being together. If we're both in our own bodies and we're both following what's happening, there's a synergy that happens between us. Instead of, if we're thinking, then it doesn't happen the same when we're thinking, and we're not present in our bodies, and that's where the sensations and the pleasure. So I say to my client, if you're thinking, catch it as soon as you can, and bring this and notice, and, you know, take a breath and know, what can I feel in my body? What can I feel in my legs? What can I feel? What sensations am I noticing? And go with those and follow them and lead yourself back into your own body. And sometimes people can just have a history or have a habit of disassociating as different things happen. And so I often say, well, you know, have that conversation with your partner if they start to notice what's going on, then slowing down. Because often if people are in each other's heads, if someone has disappeared, if something has happened, then if you slow things right down, it gives everyone a chance to come back to themselves, come back and really see what we want to do, where we want to move to, and the slowness allows that pleasure or those sensations to be felt again. And so then everyone is, I think we just do, in our modern age, we just do things very fast. And I think when our intimate lives, we expect them to be fast as well, whereas if we slow down, I think we should slow down everything, but, you know, particularly our interactions and slow them down so that you're noticing the nuances in what is happening and the sensations and the subtleness. And, you know, I'm grinning. I can feel myself grinning even as I'm, you know, just that being present with each other, and it's nearly that tantalizing, teasing, the slowness enhances that sensation. And I think we've come away from that. We've come to a fastness and an intensity and a wham bam sort of sensations, which is a pity, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I totally agree there. And it's we do live in this fast-paced society, and everything's got to be, you've got to have everything quick. Everything's quicker, isn't it? You've got to have food served instantly. You've got to have this program on immediately. You've got to have this today. You don't save for it and get it tomorrow. No, you've got to have it right now. You've got to have everything so instantaneously. And as you say, of course that's going to go across into our intimate lives, because it doesn't just stop. It affects the whole of our lives. So that, just taking a breath, and really, I love that, the way you've put that, Myola, that when we start in the thinking part of our brain, that logical part, in our minds, we've lost, we've lost every connection with our body there. And to bring us back to what are we feeling, what do we want? Because that's what intimacy is about, isn't it? It's about how we feel. Mm-hmm. It's not about using the logical side. It is all about that feeling. And I guess, do you get this as well? Because I know in my early stages with my work, people are quite resistant to self-love, putting themselves first and looking after and being responsible for themselves, and it's about them, because they think it's a selfish act. So in the beginning, do people kind of struggle with that?
Yes, often people, and I think it's probably, unless people are really mindful of it, it's the thing that falls off the wagon as well, is our self-love and our self-care. And I, encourage people to have a practice every day that involves some sort of self-love, and I mean a little bit more than putting moisturiser on your skin, which is lovely, but something more, something where you're engaging all of yourself, so that there is some sort of sensuality, some sort of sexuality with it, and keep. It's a bit, for me, it's like keeping the fires tended to, keeping and what is happening with me, and being curious. If I was really to be with myself today, what would I want? What would help my sensual self, my sexual self, my intimate self? How would I be with myself? And so that might be that you grab a nice piece of material and, wrap it around your body. It might be that you have, a very big erotic play. It might be that you sit and, touch one part of your body, your leg or your arm, and just be totally present with that one part of you. And that fills us up from the inside. And I think we forget that as beings, when we're filled up from the inside and we come to play with somebody else who is filled up from the inside, that's two beings that are whole and want to play, and they're not wanting something from each other. There's not this, you need to do this to me. You need to give me this. It's your job to give me pleasure, sensation, orgasms, intimacy, connection. It's your job. And they've already got that sense of themselves, so they come as a being who wants to play, and as a being who wants to see what sort of authentic connection and intimacy can be created here. And that could look like anything. That is like a new paradigm of worlds that open up, not just putting body parts together. I think we've kind of narrowed our view of what intimacy is.
Yeah, I'm so with that, and that matches so with my work, Myola, that we really do have to fill up ourselves first, or we actually have nothing to give as well. It isn't about what we can take from that. If we go into the intimacy part, it's not what we can take from that person, and that person should be doing this, or I never have an orgasm because they're not doing this right, or this isn't working for me, etc. And that spills over into all of the rest of our lives, that we subconsciously, and it's not a conscious thing out there, listeners. If you think we're going around taking from people, it's not conscious, but subconsciously that's what we want, because we don't know how to fill ourselves up. We can call it a love tank. You can, that's quite often used, isn't it? Filling up your cup or whatever it is. But if that is not filled up, you will try and take that from somebody else by having an expectation or doing something for them in the hope that this feeling will be returned. And when it isn't, you get very, very frustrated with that person, and you actually start destroying a part of your self-worth because you failed. You failed to take that. And I could really see that, the whole thing just merging, exactly what it is like when we're intimate, because why would that be any different, from every other part of our life? So I think there's a lot of people out there, Myola, they're going to think, whoa, I haven't even really thought about it in this way at all. So I think that's a fantastic eye-opener, that the pleasure is coming from within us, and it's by us keeping present, we are able to enjoy and to actually make that connection so much deeper. Wow, loving. Whoa.
Yes, it is. I think it is a different way that we can look at ourselves. But if I give an analogy that may be helpful to the listeners, it may not. But if we took it that, our bodies are an instrument, and if we were wanting to, play in a concert or in a concerto with other people in an orchestra, we wouldn't turn up at the time that we were to play. We wouldn't turn up having squeaky instruments and half of our strings broken and needing them to play scales. We would turn up and we would be on. We would be ready to play and to perform and to give, we would have done our own work so that we can be the best that we can be in that scenario. Either our instruments and playing concerts is usually something that people can get their heads around, or sport. You do the practice, you do all your your training, so that when it's game time, you're on and you're present, and you practice all your formations and you do all those things, so that when it's game time, you actually know that, and that you can trust the other people as well. That you can trust yourself to know what is right for you and what is not right. So the more we know ourselves, the more we know when we're not present and when things are not working for us, or when something has happened or that something has triggered us. So the more we know ourselves, the more we practice that, the better we become as humans as well, and the better we interact with everyone else on the planet.
Yeah. I love those analogies. They're brilliant. I love the team player one. I'm going to remember that one, because it's that's so key, isn't it? So key. So moving on from that, if we are, is that because we need to be very clear on, when we're present to ourselves and we understand ourselves and our bodies and our minds and what makes us tick. When we're a lot clearer on that, we need to be clear on what, getting that message to somebody else. What are our desires? Do we actually know what they are? And because a lot of that comes into, we tend to blame, don't we? It's something's wrong with them, or something's not right.
Yes, or something's not wrong with it, not right with us. Yes, I think we don't often. I think we see things in Hollywood, and we see things, and we don't know what our own true desire is. What am I longing for? What do I truly desire here? And that's why getting really in touch with our bodies is that we can truly tap into what is it that my body desires here, and what is it that my body longs for here. And it could be, it's usually totally different than what our minds think that it wants. And so as the clearer we get in our own desires, the clearer we are able to be with somebody else. I get people to do an exercise often where they write down what they desire from somebody else. And so they go through, and so the first stage, this is a spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you the whole stages, but so then you can do it at home if you're listening. So the first stage is writing down, what they want from somebody else, and often it takes them a little while to really feel into it, because I ask them different areas. So what do you desire in the bedroom? What do you desire outside the bedroom? What do you desire their communication, what do you desire in the way